So what went wrong with the Nashville Predators last season? Well, Barry Trotz pulled back the curtain, and we are going to dive into his answers, starting with the perfect word Trotz used to explain the issue of locker room dynamics.
You're Locked On Predators, your daily podcast on the Nashville Predators, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Happy Wednesday, everybody. Welcome to the Locked On Predators podcast. Thanks so much for making us your first listen of the day. We are, of course, your free daily Nashville Predators podcast. We are a part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Want to kick off our Wednesday episode the way we kick off all of our episodes, and that is with a special shout out to our Locked On Predators Insiders community and to our everydayers who tune in to talk Nashville Predators hockey with us. I'm Ann Kimmel. I am a writer and a co-host with Penalty Box Radio, and my friends, I have a partner in crime.
You do. I am Emma Lingan, and I'm the Predators site editor and reporter for the Hockey News.
The question on every Nashville Predators fan's mind, what went wrong? Well, Barry Trotz met with the media this week and outlined kind of a short list of on and off ice issues that he believes contributed to one of the worst seasons in franchise history. If the team is going to run things back with the same head coach and a similar roster, what improvements can we really expect? We are going to dive into some of the issues that Trotz shared. One specific today that I think really jumped out at me, and that is team dynamics. We're going to share with you Barry Trotz's comments on team dynamics, what is likely to help. And then, friends, tonight there is a critical game 3 for the Milwaukee Admirals in the AHL postseason. We're going to get you ready for that game as well. All right, Emma, very interesting press conference with Barry Trotz. Took me some time to digest it. I think I'm still digesting it. But there was one thing that really jumped out at me, and that was his description of what he feels like went wrong inside the locker room. And I think you and I can agree that was something that we knew was off. Not necessarily in a red flag way, but this was a concern, not just through the season, but even going into the season. You and I were like, this is going to take some time.
Yeah, and of course, people love to sensationalize, and I talked about this on yesterday's show, but people think like, oh, well, there's drama in the locker room. Everyone's getting out their drama cauldrons, and it's like, no. It just because the dynamics are different in the locker room, which they should be when you add big pieces like that, it doesn't mean that they all hate each other. But and that's what people like to think when people hear the phrase locker room dynamic, they think, who, like who's beefing with who? And it's like, no,
Vancouver Canucks 2.0.
Literally, people were thinking this was a JT Miller, Elias Pettersson situation. It's like, no, they really don't have that. It's not like that. It is just different. I mean, it's going to take some time. Like I don't know. I mean, FYI, people, this is not happening. But if you, Ann, came on here with a new co-host tomorrow, it doesn't mean that you don't like the person. It just like the banter, the repertoire probably wouldn't be the same because it's just
we got our jam.
You got to get used to it.
Yeah, that is not happening. Just FYI, no. Emma's going nowhere. Emma's going nowhere, people. Barry Trotz used what I think, Emma, was the perfect word to describe what we are talking about when we talk about locker room dynamics being an issue for the Nashville Predators. As soon as he said this particular word, I had to stop myself from saying amen, because he nailed it. This is what Trotz had to say about locker room dynamics.
The reality is that we got off to a poor start. Some of those acquisitions, I want to say, in our leadership sort of paralyzed each other a little bit. They looked at each other with admiration. Guys looking at Steven Stamkos and Marchessault and Shea and going, hey, those are really good players, and we're, and our guys are on the flip side, Stammer and those guys, the respect they have for Yost and O'Reilly and that. And I think we got paralyzed a little bit waiting for, where do I fit? How's it going to happen? And I think I sort of mentioned that with legacy players, it does take longer, and the respect that those players have for each other says a lot. A lot of people question how our dressing room was. We've got great guys in our dressing room. They really get along really well. I would say they have a really good dressing room. We have really good guys, and sometimes maybe too nice. Sometimes you don't want to step on each other's toes. So we've had that conversation a little bit.
Paralyzed. As soon as he said paralyzed, I was like, that is it. Because like you had just said, Emma, people, I think, figure it's drama, it's dislike, it is tension, it is competition, it is none of that. And I think I can speak for you. I don't want to, but just when we are around the team in the locker room, watching practices, interacting, with the team. Now, we're not in team meetings. We're not out to lunch with them. But what we observe around the team, there really was no drama. There was no dislike. There was no tension. I don't think there was ever tension between players in the locker room. What there was paralysis, leadership paralysis. And as soon as Barry Trotz said they paralyzed each other, I thought, that's it. That's how you describe what we saw. It wasn't drama. It wasn't dislike. It wasn't suspicion. It wasn't competition. They were paralyzed. You've got this core group of leaders who kind of have, quote unquote, grown up together. You've got Philip Forsberg, you've got Roman Josi, you've got UC Saros. They've been in this franchise forever. You bring in Steven Stamkos, who not only was the captain of his former team, that's the only team he has ever played for. He is the face of that franchise. So he comes in having been in a very different situation. You throw in Jonathan Marchessault, who is this outspoken, speak my mind kind of guy who has earned his stripes. You've got young players in this locker room like Luke Evangelista, Zach LaRue, later on Fedor Svechkov, kind of watching this unfold. And how you mesh the leadership core with these new players coming in who have leadership experience. I love that he says they were paralyzed. I thought that just hit the nail on the head.
Yeah. And I think we kind of, again, a lot of it probably isn't conscious. It's not Roman Josi isn't walking in consciously thinking, oh my gosh, there's Steven Stamkos. I can't talk. Like, I can't talk. He has to talk. Like, he's not thinking that, but I think it's just natural. Like, again, the legacy guys like Josi, Forsberg, they're probably looking at Stamkos as an example, but maybe other, Marchessault, Shea, whatever. But Stamkos, for example, probably looking at him as like a living legend because he is in the hockey world. He is. But I think they're looking at him and thinking, oh my gosh, we can learn so much from this guy, which is true. But on the flip side, Stamkos, to your point, has only ever played for one other team. And he comes in, he thinks of himself as the new guy. Like, I can learn so much from them. And it's like, like Barry said, they get paralyzed. And it's like, and it's also a situation that Stamkos in particular has never been in before, because he has never been the new guy, except when he was a literal new guy in the league. Like, he's never been in this situation. So I think that, there's just kind of learning how to learn from each other. And I think that there, obviously the season before, when Barry Trotz brought in Luke Schenn and Gus Nyquist and Ryan O'Reilly, those guys, I feel like, are sort of, obviously O'Reilly and Schenn were cup winners, but it just, I don't know. I feel like that kind of thing didn't happen when those guys came in. Because I think O'Reilly and Schenn felt a little more, they've played for multiple teams before, and they felt a little more comfortable. I think
Yes,
they felt
that's
more
huge.
comfortable stepping in and being a leader, not taking over as like, this is my locker room now. Like, no, I just think they felt a little more comfortable doing that. Now, I wonder, again, informed speculation is that perhaps Stamkos didn't feel as comfortable doing that, just because he's never been in this situation before.
Yeah. Coming up, we're going to talk about why the slow start to the season fed into that paralysis. We're also going to talk about accountability in the locker room as an issue as well. Today's episode is brought to you by our great friends at Wonderful Pistachios. If you are looking for a snack that is both delicious and nutritious, you have got to crack into a good source of protein with Wonderful Pistachios. Wonderful Pistachios is one of the highest protein nuts. Each 1 ounce serving has 6 grams of protein. That's going to give you over 10% of your daily value. Plus, they are packed with fiber and better for you unsaturated fats to help keep you feeling fuller longer. I personally have told you this. I am a no shells variety kind of girl. It is a perfect grab and go snack, whether I am working here at my desk, on my way to Bridgestone Arena, or when I just hit that point in the day where I know I'm going to need a little protein boost. It's a great, easy go-to. But if you love cracking open every shell for that satisfying crunch, they have a great in-shell option. It is a classic favorite. So get snacking and get cracking with the snack that packs a protein punch. Visit wonderfulpistachios.com to learn more. Emma, talking about how they sort of paralyzed each other, I think this was something that snowballed. And if you look back at the season, it really did. Everything snowballed. It started as maybe what could have been a little problem, but the way the on-ice performance went, I think this problem of leadership paralysis snowballed, because when this team came out and lost those first 5 games, I can see those legacy core leaders looking at Steven Stamkos and going, holy crap, now what? And Steven Stamkos looking at Yossi and Forsberg and Saros and Sissons and going, holy crap, where's the bathroom? Like, you are looking for, hey, who is the person who knows how to navigate this? And this was not just, hey, we lost the first 5 games of the season. This was, expectations are we are going to light it up and we can't win a game yet. And there is a sense of panic when expectations are that high. And I think the expectations fed into that off ice, hey, who's going to say the hard things? And that's another part of this too, is saying the hard things to each other. There was a moment that kind of became a big deal where Steven Stamkos, after a loss, said, well, I've got thoughts on this, but, I'll just kind of, keep those to myself. And I think the initial thought was, he's talking about Andrew Burnett. Well, I wonder if he was like, hey, this is also about, I don't know how to approach addressing other players in the locker room because I'm the new guy. And the only other time, like you said, where he has been the new guy, the expectation was he was going to sit quietly and learn because he was a rookie. Those are very different experiences as a, quote, new guy. The other thing that as I heard this that jumped out at me is Ryan O'Reilly made a comment too, where it is very hard to call someone else out when you are playing so poorly. And I think here you have a team where literally everybody in that locker room is underperforming. Who's going to be the guy that goes, hey, Steven Stamkos, we need this from you? And not be like, is Steven Stamkos going to look at me and go, hey, buddy, I see your stats. Like, this was a problem that snowballed because the on-ice product didn't lend to a solution off ice.
Yeah, and I think, we make fun of Ryan O'Reilly a lot because, we see him in the locker room about to light himself on fire after the team loses because it's all his fault.
All his fault.
It's completely on him. But, I think there is some truth to that. Again, I think sometimes he takes it a little too far, but, you realize that the only thing you can do is, or the only person that you can hold accountable is yourself at that point. And so that way I feel like they all get so sort of like withdrawn and internalized, and it's like, it's on me. How can I be better?
Yes.
How can I? And you put a lot of pressure on yourself that way, which in moderation can be a good thing. But I think that it became so hard. And O'Reilly said at locker room clean out something about, I don't, forgive me, I don't remember the exact quote, so I'm paraphrasing, but it was something to the effect of, like, the more you keep losing, the harder it gets on you. Like, it's, it's not, you end up crossing a line where it's like, okay, this isn't the loss. You get one bad loss. That can be motivation. That can be a jumping off point to be like, all right, this is going to motivate me to do better. But it's like when you get 5 bad losses in a row, that it stops being motivational and it starts being detrimental, because you just get so down on yourself and on the team. And it's really hard to pull out of that. Now, these are professional athletes, and that is part of the job, that they, need to be able to do that. So I'm not making excuses for them. And Lord knows Ryan O'Reilly is not making any excuses for himself. He's probably waterboarding himself as we speak. But I think that there is just so much to that, and so many different new dynamics that have lent themselves to everyone, to go back to the word of the day, just being paralyzed.
Yes. One of our insiders, Jennifer, made this observation, and I think the way that she lays this out is exactly what Barry Trotz was talking about. Jennifer said, maybe there was too much polite deference to each other. A team sometimes needs someone to spark their energy. I think the guys need to be okay with being mad at how everyone is playing if they are not playing up to the required level. They need to create a safe space to know that they can yell and be forgiven, that no one is taking it personally, but it needs to be said. And then she adds this, and I think this is amazing. And Juice should be given blanket permission to bitch slap the team when they leave him to hang out to dry, or at least yell at everyone, even if it is in Finnish and no one understands. I mean, and here's the thing. This is one of those things that when you name the elephant in the room, and when they all go, yeah, you know what, we didn't call each other out, this is a problem that is actually going to be relatively easy to self-correct next season. And I'm not trying to paint a rosy picture, because I don't really know what we're going to see next season. But this is one of those things where I feel like it could improve with time. And Barry Trotz, he talked about that too. He talked about the accountability among teammates. This is what he had to say about that. I do want to warn everybody, the clip cuts off kind of abruptly at the end. Just, I need you to go with me. The meat is really there.
Well, I think just, any time that you make adjustments, making sure that you get to the accountability factor right through your roster. It doesn't matter in terms of a player who's played 600 games or a player who played 6. There should be the accountability factor. Obviously, the guys that have long NHL careers or been in the league a long time have a longer rope. But in terms of the respect for all those guys, that has to be the same. I know that it's key with Andrew. But just making sure that we're all playing the right way all the time. And I didn't think we did enough of it. And that's an area where, like I said, sometimes we're all too nice. And I can be a nice guy, John, as you know, and but I can also be the.
So sorry about that edit, but sometimes you get it and sometimes you don't. I love what he says though about accountability, and we talked about accountability with Andrew Brunette, being accountable, holding veterans accountable the same way as he holds young players. But I think in the locker room, player to player accountability, that has to change. And, I go back to Steven Stamkos. I am 100% certain. Now, this is pure speculation, but I'd be willing to die on this hill that Kucherov in Tampa Bay would pull him aside and be like, hey, dude, gonna need this from you. I don't know that anybody felt comfortable doing that in the locker room this season, which snowballed into players kind of saying, okay, hey, nobody is doing anything to fix this. I'm going to just do it myself, which then means somebody has gone rogue, which means that we're not playing the system, which, the snowball has grown. They really have to have that player to player accountability. And it has to go across the board. Like, it has to go from veterans, core leadership, all the way down to the young guys, Emma. And I think that has to improve as well.
Yeah, because again, I think people think, oh, guys, because we saw it. We could see it on the ice that guys were trying to, like you said, kind of go rogue, do it their own way, take the team, carry the team on their back and try to do it themselves. And I think, of course, that leads people to get out their drama cauldrons and think like, oh, well, they don't trust each other. They, they don't like each other. It's all that. And it's like, no, I think I think what it is really the locker room, the home locker room at Bridgestone Arena was carpeted with eggshells all season. I think that's what it was. Is like they're so afraid to step on toes, and they're not going to talk to each other, and they're not gonna, and it's not because they don't like each other or they don't respect each other or they don't trust each other. It's because they're not comfortable. And I think the more you get in that headspace, the more easy it becomes to just kind of get in your own head and be withdrawn and be like, I can't say this, I can't do this, I can't whatever. And again, a lot of it was probably unconscious. Just they're not even consciously thinking it. But I think that is what we saw. It's not like an active, aggressive kind of mindset. It's just they were all walking on eggshells this year.
That is the perfect visual for that locker room. That is the perfect visual. So what is going to fix
maybe
this?
The locker room was carpeted with it was eggshells, not actually Jonathan Marchessault's laundry, which he left all over the floor.
You all.
I knew
the mom
I was
and me.
I knew I was gonna get a rise out of Anne with that one.
Mom and me. I'm like, just at least put it in front of your stall. Anyway, eggshells. We're going to focus on that. That's the perfect way to describe what was going on. It wasn't jealousy. It wasn't drama. It wasn't any of that. It was almost this paralyzing deference into eggshells. So what is going to fix it next year? Well, I think time fixes a lot of this. I think familiarity fixes this. I think experience, and that goes from player to player relationships and experience, but also Andrew Brunette is going to be a piece of that experience coaching those veterans. I think Andrew Brunette knows now that Jonathan Marchessault is going to say the quiet part out loud. Good. Know that. That is helpful information to have. So some of that issue, I think, is fixed with time and hard conversations. Barry Trotz has called them out on this. They know he knows. Now they know. I agree with you. I think this is a subconscious thing. Now they're all aware of it, and they know we can't do that again. There is a silver lining to this, Emma. And coming up, I'm going to tell you what I think that silver lining is. We are also going to talk about the postseason.
An award-winning mattress can change your life. I speak from experience. It happened to me. After years of uncomfortable sleeps, I recently switched to Bare Mattress, and the results were instant. Bare Mattress is designed with a focus on recovery, cooling, and pressure relief to upgrade your sleep and improve your overall quality of life. I used to deal with night sweats, but Bare's best-in-class cooling ensures optimal temperature regulation, which prevents overheating and helps me stay comfortable all night long. Bare offers a wide variety of mattresses, but to get the right one for you, take their sleep quiz that matches you to your perfect mattress based on body type and sleep preferences. Go to baremattress.com and use promo code LOCKEDONNHL at checkout to get 40% off site-wide. This offer is not available anywhere else. You have to use my promo code on the very last page of checkout to get this discount. That's bearmattress.com. Use my promo code LOCKEDONNHL to get 40% off site-wide. Bearmattress.com, promo code LOCKEDONNHL.
Emma, there were a lot of issues that came together to turn this into one of the worst seasons in franchise history. But I think today we have talked about one that was big off ice. I think one that can be relatively easy to correct. Here is the silver lining to me. In that locker room, navigating the eggshells and Jonathan Marchessault's dirty laundry, you have players like Luke Evangelista, Fedor Svechkov, and Zach LaRue, Mark Del Gaizo, Spencer Stastny. And while this is so painful and the results are so disastrous, you have young players that have just walked through an odd situation with team dynamics. And I think they are going to be so much smarter having been a part of and watched this go down with the veterans. And I look at players like Zach LaRue and Luke Evangelista. I look at Fedor Svechkov, and I think I can see them being the future leadership core of the Nashville Predators down the road. And they are going to be better leading this team, having gone through this particular issue with the team at this particular point in their career. And that to me is a little tiny bit of a very small sliver of silver lining.
Yeah. And I think, to go back earlier to when you were talking about how do we fix this, I do think that, time is going to be a big factor, time and familiarity, and we can have nothing to do but wait for that. But I also think a part of it, and this is going to sound a little counterintuitive or like sort of a chicken and egg thing. I'm coming up with a lot of egg analogies today, which is weird because I hate eggs. Like they make me gag. They're disgusting.
Oh,
Anyway,
okay.
I think that another thing that's going to help is and that probably didn't help with this team this year is they probably didn't feel comfortable calling each other out, holding each other accountable because they haven't experienced good times together before. It's a little bit easier to be like, if we've won together, if we have gone to the playoffs together, if we've experienced success together and now we are not, I think it's a little bit more natural and a little bit easier to call each other out and be like, hey, you need to do this. We need to do this because we've been there before and we know we can do it. And it's like, okay, all of them have been there before, but not with each other. And so I think that kind of, and again, it sounds really oversimplified to be like, well, how do you fix this? Well, you just start winning more. Like, come on. But I mean, I do think that if they can get to a point where they start to experience more sustained success together, that is, in theory, going to go a long way in helping this, chemistry kind of mesh to the point where, and that's not to say that they have to, it's like, well, they just need to start winning all the time and then problem solved. Like, no, you need to win a little bit. And then when things do inevitably get bad, because it's a long season and you go through slumps and whatever, when you have that winning experience to lean upon and to kind of grow from, and they didn't win this year. They never got it.
Never had any sort of consistent positive reinforcement. I agree with you. I think time, familiarity, and some wins is going to go a long way for this team. And there are more issues that contributed to the lack of winning. We're going to tackle some more of them this week that Barry Trotz shared. One of them is buy-in, which I think is a whole conversation, a very interesting conversation. But Emma, let's talk about some teams that have had success. We're going to start with the Milwaukee Admirals. They're in a bit of a pickle, friends. Milwaukee Admirals finished first in the Central Division in the AHL. They have outstanding goaltending. They've got some amazing goal scorers. Defensively, chef's kiss. They're down 2 games in a 5-game best-of-5 series. Tonight, must win against the Rockford Ice Hogs. It is a 7 p.m. puck drop. Again, you can watch these games on Flow Hockey. That's FLO hockey.com. Going to be cheering for them, 7 p.m. Central Time. I really just want to see the Admirals win, Emma. You know how talking about like getting some wins will perk things up? Yeah, we've been through it. It's been 84 years. Come on, Milwaukee. The other thing I want to talk about real quick, Emma, the NHL playoffs. Round 2 has kicked off. What kind of has surprised you? What are you looking forward to in the second round of these playoffs? Is there a storyline that jumps out to you the most?
I mean, first of all, I was surprised that Toronto kind of took it to Florida in game 1. Now, it ended up being a pretty close game at the end because the Leafs started to leaf and, they let Florida back into the game. But it was like, oh, okay. Really concerning development there with their goaltending. Anthony Stolarz is not, it really did look accidental. Like, kind of Sam Bennett kind of ran into his head.
Sam Bennett causing a concussion.
Well, see, that's why everyone's like, oh, he meant to hurt him. It's like, honestly, if you watch the play, I really don't think that was the case. But regardless of intent, it happened.
Yeah.
He got up, Stolarz got up, and then
Yes.
the concussion spotters pulled him, and he was seen vomiting
Hurling.
on the bench afterwards, which again, all
Bad
signs
sign.
of a concussion. And so he was in the hospital for testing. He's out of the hospital now, but I know this morning the Leafs practiced, or they had skate, and there were 3 goalies on the ice, and not one of them was Anthony Stolarz. So little concerning there. Again, I still thought Florida was going to take this series, but I'm pretty darn certain now.
Yeah. I do love how Toronto handled them in that first game. And I think Florida was kind of like, oh, wait a minute. Oh, are we doing this? I thought you guys played pretty hockey and we were tough. I love that. Cannot freaking wait for Dallas, Winnipeg. Cannot wait. Connor Hellebuck. Will the real Connor Hellebuck please stand up? This is going to be amazing. I cannot wait to see this series. Also, Edmonton won last night over the Vegas Golden Knights. That is their 5th comeback win in a row for Edmonton in the postseason. They are a cat with 9 lives, and the cat's name is Connor McDavid, but he also answers to Leon Draisaitl as well. Look, Calvin Pickard was very good in net, and that's one of those things where you're like, oh, I don't know about their goaltending, but he was really good, Emma.
He was. And I'll be honest, with Mattias Ekholm not playing, I have zero incentive to root for the Oilers at all right now.
Mhm.
So I'm like a little annoyed. Like, I'm not a Vegas fan. I'm not a Vegas fan by any stretch, but I'm like,
Yeah.
why does this keep happening? It's like, why do they keep winning? I know why, because you never bet against a team with McDavid
Ever.
and Draisaitl, like ever. And we know that. And yet still, I think most of us thought this was the year they were finally going to make it past the Kings in the first round. Nope. And without a dog in the fight, because if Mattias Ekholm's not playing, I have zero emotional attachment to Edmonton whatsoever. I'm just like, as an objective viewer, I'm like getting annoyed. I'm like, why do they keep doing this?
Yeah.
Like,
I know.
away.
I really want them to win because I'm like, Mattias Ekholm still gets a ring and he deserves one. I don't even care if I don't care if he doesn't play in the postseason. He just deserves one. Also, big Paige Martin fan. So I'm like here for that. But yeah, Edmonton. Okay, sure. They're the new shore of the postseason here at Locked On Predators, Edmonton. Sure. Yeah, interesting postseason. Can't wait for the games tonight. On tomorrow's show, we are going to talk some more about issues that Barry Trotz called out. We're going to talk about buy-in. So many interesting comments that he made about the players buying in, but I don't think it means what you think it means. We're going to clarify it on tomorrow's show. Before we log off today, though, Emma, let everyone know where they can find you and your work.
You can find me on social media at Emma_Lingan, and you can find all of my Preds and Stanley Cup playoff coverage at the Hockey News.
And you can find me on social media at @AnnK_Mama on Ice. You can find my work with Penalty Box Radio as well. Friends, that is going to do it for this Wednesday edition of the Locked On Predators podcast. Thanks again so much for making us your first listen of the day. We are going to be back tomorrow. We're going to be talking buy-in. We'll see you then.